Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're stepping away from the usual. We're not navigating quarterly reports or, geopolitical conflicts.
No.
We are plunging into a story so deeply rooted in sacrifice, in destiny, and a profound, almost unbelievable emotional logic that it really redefines what we mean when we talk about ambition.
It really does.
We are talking about the extraordinary life documented by Swapnil, the story of Lilly.
Indeed. And the source material that Swapnil has provided us it's less like a biography and more like a powerful epic. It's a study in resilience and really the ultimate cost of realizing a dream. It asks us to consider what happens when love becomes a force that's strong enough to challenge the laws of physics.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because the immediate hook for me is this incredible visual.
Yeah.
Lily's blooming twice in tune. It's just immediately symbolic. This duplication of beauty right in the middle of all this struggle. You see the humble beginnings, the one-room home, and yet the narrative that Swapnil's built insists that this fragile beauty takes root not just once, but as a recurring, defining motif.
And that image is the thematic anchor for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to really dissect those layers.
Right.
The foundational sacrifice, the grueling journey from Pune's dusty lanes to the open sky, and then the utterly surreal, time-bending event that allowed Lilly to reconcile her past with her future.
We have to grasp the context for the immense strength that was required to achieve her destiny. I mean, her flight wasn't merely a personal achievement, was it?
Not at all. It was a mission handed down through an inheritance of love.
I pulled out three central, just undeniable themes woven throughout Swapnil's meticulous documentation.
Okay.
First, this idea of destiny being linked to identity, that Lily's name is her destiny, a flower that was just meant to grow, regardless of the soil.
It's predetermined.
Then second, the concrete physical cost of dreams, which was paid for in raw hands and skipped meals.
The tangible price.
Yeah. And third, that beautiful, almost metaphysical concept that binds the entire story together. That sometimes the sky doesn't just hold our answers, it actively sends us back for them.
That final point. The sky sends us back for answers. That is the narrative pivot.
It is.
But to understand why the universe would orchestrate such an event, we have to start where Lilly started. And we begin with a fact that is both, it's heartbreaking and profoundly inspiring at the same time, the initial shock factor. We learn that for Lily's very first birthday, her mother, Anushri, skipped meals for an entire week just to afford one small bouquet of lilies.
A week.
A whole week.
A week of starvation for a single gift. We really have to just pause on that for a second.
Yeah.
In the context of that kind of economic hardship, that's not a casual sacrifice. That is a decision that speaks to absolute prioritization.
It tells us everything we need to know from the outset. From day one, Anushri and Rajesh prioritized the infusion of beauty and hope, the very symbol of the lily, over their own immediate physical survival.
It sets this non-negotiable standard of devotion.
It does. It signals to you, the listener, that every single page of Lily's story, every success, every hard-won battle is built on a foundation of such extreme, unwavering parental investment.
That bouquet isn't just a floral arrangement.
No, it's an oath. It's the first bloom in that quiet window garden, a symbol of hope that is fiercely earned, not merely discovered.
So let's dive into that environment, the one that bred this incredible strength. Part one builds this vibrant yet profoundly difficult setting of Lily's childhood in Pune.
And Swapnil treats the environment itself as a character.
He does. It's one that provides this sensory overload, but at the same time is constantly testing the limits of their aspiration.
And Swapnil is a master at this kind of atmosphere setting. We get this rich description of Pune, the bustling lanes, the rhythmic toll of temple bells, the calls of street vendors.
The symphony of life, I think, is the phrase he uses.
That's it. It's rich, it's loud, and it's demanding. But we have to immediately contrast that vibrancy with the stark reality. Their small, one-room home.
It's a physical juxtaposition.
It is. External chaos and internal, almost monastic necessity.
And inside that necessity, we have the constant presence of the lily. It blooms once in the market, out in the world, shared, fleeting. And then it blooms again stubbornly in their home, often represented by that pressed flower or the bouquet.
And that's such a critical recurring theme, isn't it? Beauty and hope that find root specifically in hardship, not in spite of it.
Yeah, that internal flower, whether it's grown or bought through sacrifice, becomes their anchor. The outside world is all noise and struggle, but inside they cultivate this this deliberate focus and concentrated hope.
It's the visual representation of their entire life philosophy, and that brings us to the bedrock of the whole narrative, the unwavering love and profound sacrifice of Anushri and Rajesh.
Let's talk about Rajesh the garbage collector. This is where the story gets so profoundly philosophical.
It really does.
His job, which society often views as, menial or unseen, is elevated by him to the highest form of contribution. It's an act of intellectual investment.
We absolutely must dwell on this quote for a moment because it is the thesis statement for Lilly's eventual success.
Say it.
See these hands? They're rough so yours can stay soft. Every bag of garbage I pick is a page in your school book.
That is just, it's stunning.
It is. It's not just a parent saying, I work hard for you. It's a direct philosophical accounting of his life's work.
I find the complexity here just fascinating. We're dealing with an intense psychological contract. That phrase, rough so yours can stay soft.
It's the ultimate act of transference and protection.
Yes, he consciously chooses the physical burden and, let's be honest, the social stigma of his labor so that she can maintain a state of innocence and intellectual focus.
Precisely. It turns manual labor into currency for intellectual freedom. It's Rajesh consciously shielding Lilly from the necessity of survival so she can dedicate her entire being to learning and reaching for those stars.
The bag of garbage he picks is literally equated to knowledge.
Yes. He's saying, my struggle is the infrastructure for your opportunity. It dignifies his sacrifice in a way that just transcends mere material provision.
But doesn't that statement also place an immense psychological burden on Lilly? Knowing that her very softness, her education, her opportunity is paid for by the extreme roughness of her father's existence.
That's a crucial observation, and it's why the story is so compelling. The love is unconditional, but the expectation, while it's silent, is immense.
Right.
It transforms her dreams from simple childhood wishes into a sacred obligation to honor that investment. And this pressure, I think, it explains the relentless drive we see in her later as a cadet.
She wasn't just flying for herself.
No. She was performing an act of reverence for the rough hands that paved her way.
And then you have Adashri's silent struggle, which provided the emotional steadying force. Rajesh faced the physical and social toil outside. Anushri managed the scarcity within.
Her hands were raw from scrubbing. She meticulously cleaned and prepared these simple meals of rice and dal.
Her sacrifice was the quiet energy of the household. It was the constant maintenance of hope.
And Swapnil writes that despite the physical toll, her heart was swelling with love.
I love that line.
It suggests her emotional capacity was expanding precisely because of the difficulties. She transformed scarcity simple ingredients into consistent nourishment, and she turned their single room into a haven where the dream could be safely nurtured.
And they had a very specific, beautiful ritual that focused this energy, the ritual of the stars.
Yes. Every single evening, Rajesh would sit by the window, pointing to the sky, and he'd promise her, one day, my lily flower, you'll fly so high you'll touch those stars.
It's the intentional nurturing of destiny.
It's prophetic, yes, but it's also a form of psychological conditioning. He's turning the stars from these distant, unreachable lights into a personal, attainable destination.
By making this promise a repetitive nightly ritual, he embeds the dream deep into her subconscious.
Exactly. He's ensuring the sky is not just something to look at, but something to conquer.
And this ritual ties directly back to the window garden, the physical manifestation of hope inside their one room, this tiny patch of earth where lilies bloomed faithfully. It became their quiet reminder that beauty could grow even in the hardest cracks.
That metaphor, beauty growing in the hardest cracks, is absolutely central.
It is.
It encapsulates their entire environment. They couldn't change the poverty, the noise, or the demands of the street, but they could create this microclimate of focused hope.
The fact that the lilies bloomed faithfully, which is almost miraculous, that repetition, is a testament to their unwavering commitment.
It foreshadows Lily's entire trajectory. She didn't need a privileged launch pad. Her launch pad was built on that small, fiercely protected patch of earth, watered by sacrifice.
It really emphasizes that destiny isn't about escaping poverty.
No, it's about transforming the scarcity of the environment into the abundance of vision.
And then the narrative just takes a sharp, brutal turn. We have to transition quickly, but not frantically, to the pivotal tragedy that redefines the purpose of those stars.
Yes. Part 2 is appropriately titled, The Cruelty of Stars.
We move from the quiet, contained world of the one-room home to the brutal randomness of the world outside.
And the source material captures the sharp violence of loss. what Swapnil calls the sudden silence. He writes, "Stars, as they often do, can be cruel."
When Lilly was just 3 years old, a speeding truck on a rainy night claimed Rajesh's life.
Just like that.
In an instant, their family of 3 became 2. The speed and the chaos of the accident are terrifying, but the real impact is the emotional undoing. The shield of the rough hands is suddenly gone.
The primary source of the dream ritual is gone. It's the ultimate violation of that protective contract. All the physical toil Rajesh undertook to keep Lilly soft and safe was just nullified in a split second by external chaos.
The emotional devastation must have been absolute. I mean, how do you recover from a loss that is so random and so complete?
Well, the answer is through Anushri's astonishing resilience. The narrative slows down just enough to acknowledge the grief. Her silent tears fell only at night, but it stresses that she was steady again by morning.
She had to be.
She had to immediately transmute her personal grief into actionable strength for her daughter.
And this is where she performs her greatest psychological act of love. She had to reconcile the tragedy with the dream. She couldn't let the accident crush the aspiration.
So her explanation to Lilly was this necessary protective mythology. Your papa is one of those stars now.
It's just brilliant. She takes the very source of the dream, the sky, and makes it the permanent, loving residence of his soul.
So his death didn't negate the dream of flying, it amplified it. It created a new, sacred reason for Lilly to look up and pursue that ultimate height. She would be flying toward him.
And this myth-making really solidified the shape of the dream. Lilly's inspiration wasn't just abstract anymore. It was anchored in the tangible example of her aunt who served in the Air Force.
Right, which provided a concrete roadmap, a female role model who had already achieved this height.
The emotional weight of this new destiny is then embodied so cinematically. Lilly running through Pune's narrow, crowded streets, but imagining herself soaring above the clouds, feeling free.
It's that contrast again. The confinement of the streets fueling the expansive desire for the open sky. A sky that now held her father.
But the path to that sky required such grueling physical commitment. The training as a cadet is described as unforgiving.
And this is where the contrast with her origins becomes most visceral. Lilly is surrounded by cadets from backgrounds that likely provided stable nourishment and resources.
And while those other cadets received care packages, material comforts and visits, Lilly relied entirely on her mother's letters.
And these letters weren't just correspondence, they were her rations, her psychological fuel against the constant institutional strain of cadet life.
And we know the specific critical contents. Each letter contained a physical object, a pressed lily, the constant, quiet reminder and scent of home.
And a line of intense ancestral encouragement. Your father's strength flows in your veins, my prayers carry your wings.
That is a total transference of spiritual and physical energy.
It is. The pressed lily carried the scent of that tiny window garden, a sensory anchor back to the place of initial hope. And the message, the text, was a literal declaration. You are not weak. You carry the strength of the one who sacrificed everything for you.
The source material explicitly states she held those letters like a lifeline. This is survival, not just sentimentality.
Absolutely. On days when exhaustion was absolute, when the institutional brutality of training sought to break her spirit, she read them over and over. They were the constant, quiet counterweight. The sacrifice continued. Now it was Anushri's sacrifice of solitude, and all her energy poured into those letters.
And as she's going through this grueling process, Swapnil introduces a critical, mysterious element. The lingering presence of Rashi. The text says Rashi's image just lingered in Lilly's mind. There was a strange familiarity, a connecting thread in the way Rashi spoke of her own mother.
This is the deliberate introduction of the uncanny. Why, during the most strenuous focus period of her life, is her subconscious pulling on this figure from childhood? Lilly wonders about this strange pull while staring at the ceiling at night.
It suggests that the past she thought she had neatly filed away is not dormant.
No, it is actively pulling on her. Rashi is the unexplained variable that suggests her journey isn't just about the future, but about a necessary reconciliation with a past truth she hasn't yet grasped.
So we fast forward now to the moment the dream is physically realized, but it's immediately complicated by chaos.
Yes.
This is the moment Lilly's training is tested, resulting in the high adrenaline, highly surreal turn of events that Swapnil documents in Part 3.
It begins with the test of training. Lily's first solo mission. It's supposed to be a routine flight, but it rapidly descends into absolute chaos because of a critical radar malfunction.
So we shift immediately from the quiet strength of the letter to the violent blare of emergency alarms in the cockpit.
But her physical and emotional response is critical to her character. Her heart is racing, alarms are blaring, but the source emphasizes that her rigorous training just takes over. She separates the primal fear from the learned skill.
And she lands the jet safely due to her composure. She brings down this advanced machine that was effectively flying blind.
And that steady hand is the final, tangible result of the rough hands of her father.
Yeah.
She maintained composure in a life-or-death scenario. The skill, however, it serves only as the vehicle for the profound emotional journey that follows.
And the mechanism of her return is the critical twist.
Yeah.
She manages to land the jet near her old school in Pune. Of all the places for an emergency landing, she is brought back to the epicenter of her childhood.
The immediate aftermath is deeply unsettling. She steps out of the cockpit expecting, emergency protocol, flashing lights, noise.
Right, sirens.
Instead, the streets are eerily silent, and this silence is the first strong indication that the reality she has entered is temporally or physically altered.
So the high-stress event of the crash landing seems to have acted as a catalyst. It's pulled her to a specific emotionally charged moment.
And then the time slip, the vision behind the school. She sees her younger self running and playing with Rashi.
This collision of her adult reality, complete with the military jet, and her idealized childhood memory, is described as utterly surreal, like a dream.
We have to analyze this timing. The extreme psychological stress of the near crash, combined with the emotional significance of the landing site, seems to have created a momentary fissure in reality.
But if destiny is guiding her, why the technical malfunction? If her purpose was just to fulfill the dream and fly, why does destiny require a chaos event, a near-death experience, to enact the message delivery?
That's a fascinating challenge, and I think the source suggests that perhaps Lily's achievement, her professional detachment as a pilot, had become too complete. She had mastered the sky, but maybe she had walled off the foundation of love that got her there. The chaos was necessary to break her pilot's composure and force her emotional core to surface, making her receptive to the message.
That interpretation aligns perfectly with the psychological depth of Swapnil's narrative. Her professional skill became the vehicle, but the emotional distress was the key.
Exactly.
She lands, she sees her younger self, and driven by that earlier strange pull, she calls out, "Rashi!" Her voice is trembling, the composed pilot momentarily shattered.
And Rashi's response is the key to the entire mystery, delivered with this calm certainty. She says, "Don't be afraid, Lily. Sometimes the sky sends us back for answers."
Wow.
That phrase just validates the entire experience. It confirms her landing was not random. It was a guided, intentional intervention.
The sky, the domain of her father's spirit and her life's ambition, is actively orchestrating this reunion.
And Rashi is acting as the designated guide. It suggests that her professional skill was merely the necessary qualification to receive the essential emotional truth.
And then Rashi, having delivered the message and provided assurance, just vanishes.
Yeah, leaving behind the central physical clue, an envelope scented with lilies.
And that scent ties the entire surreal event back to the reality of the sacrifice and the love established in Part 1. It's the signature of home, the final sensory tether.
This is the elegance of the writing. The source doesn't rely on explosions or massive special effects. It relies on sensory memory. The scent of lilies, which represented scarcity and sacrifice in her childhood, now represents the impossible bridge between life and memory.
The crisis was the trigger. The scent is the confirmation.
Exactly.
Which moves us into the emotional core of the entire story, of the letter. The emotional weight of this relic must be overwhelming. Lily's hands shake as she opens it, yet there is this immediate comfort because her mother's handwriting danced across the page.
That word danced is so crucial.
It is.
It gives the handwriting a vital energy that defies the physical absence of the writer. It suggests the spirit of her mother's persistent, quiet strength and vitality is contained right there in the ink.
It's authentic, familiar, and the necessary vessel for the shattering truth.
So let's deconstruct the voice of the parents inside that letter. The initial focus is on validating her entire journey, the pride.
Yes. We were so proud of you. Your father and I always wanted you to have the life we never could.
That's the absolution she needed. Lilly carried the immense weight of their sacrifice, and this confirms she fulfilled the contract. They didn't want the life they had for her. They wanted her to soar beyond their material circumstances.
The achievement wasn't just hers. It was their shared victory. acknowledged from across the veil.
But then comes the heartbreaking, mind-bending revelation, the dying wish.
It was my dying wish to see you return home, even if only for a moment. This is the explanation for the whole mechanism of the vision.
You have to just stop and reflect on the sheer power attributed to this wish. Anushri's love was so strong, so focused, that it manifested this opportunity defying time and space.
It's a powerful argument from the source material that deeply focused human intention, motivated by absolute love, can fundamentally override physical laws.
So how does Swapnil's documentation address the physics of this? Is it simply asserting that love is the strongest force, or is there a cultural context implied?
I think it leans heavily toward the assertion that love is the ultimate physics. If you connect this to the cultural setting of Pune, the idea of a dying wish or a focused longing manifesting in the real world has deep resonance.
She didn't wish for a reunion in the afterlife. She wished to see her daughter safe and successful now.
The crisis landing provided the window, and her wish provided the coordinates. The entire event was driven by the depth of a mother's longing, using Lilly's intense connection to Pune as the tether.
And this leads to the tragic truth revealed. The explanation for Rashi and the parents' physical absence. This realization, delivered in the quiet solitude of the cockpit and the scent of lilies, it must have been utterly devastating.
The stunning truth is that both Anushri and Rajesh and Rashi had all passed away during a widespread dengue outbreak shortly after Lilly left for the Air Force.
Just imagine that. Lilly had been flying high, achieving her dream, sustained by letters sent by a mother who was already gone.
That is the ultimate emotional sucker punch. She was sustained by a ghost.
And Rashi's role is fully clarified.
She became your guide, a way for you to come back to us.
So Rashi wasn't a random element. She was the designated family escort, ensuring the message was delivered gently and accurately.
Reveals a profound act of premeditated love. They understood the danger of Lilly returning to an empty home years later. To deliver the news through a controlled, supernatural event wrapped in the love of a letter is a final protective act.
They chose to spare her the brutal, clinical shock of official notice, allowing the truth to settle in an environment validated by memory.
And the explanation for the magic is the central, profound thesis of the entire story.
You're here not because of magic, but love.
It's just so powerful.
It is. This is the philosophical conclusion. It negates the idea of random paranormal activity, and it elevates human emotion to the highest possible status.
Love, in this narrative, is presented as an enduring, non-magical, yet physical force capable of achieving feats that logic just cannot explain.
It transforms the temporal anomaly into a miracle of pure devotion.
The letter ends with the final command and farewell, which is the mechanism for her return to the present.
After reading this letter, tear it apart and you'll return where you're meant to be. Achieve great things, my Lily. We miss you, Lily. And it's signed, Mom and Dad.
It's a masterful piece of closure. The instructions are so specific. Tearing the letter is the intentional physical act of accepting the truth and releasing the tether.
It forces her to let go of the past. She momentarily re-enters so she can fulfill the destiny they sacrificed everything for. The love sends her forward, not backward.
We have to linger on the cinematic climax here. Tears blurred Lily's vision. She whispers, "I miss you too." And then she performs the action that snaps her back to reality. Tearing the letter, the fragments scattered into the wind, carrying the scent of lilies.
And that visual of the fragments scattering into the wind is the perfect resolution. The fragrance is the final sensory goodbye. As the pieces disperse, the moment of temporal convergence just collapses.
And Lily returns to her operational reality, not just with a memory, but with absolute proof that the strength of her parents' love is an active guiding force in her life.
Which brings us to part V, because the ultimate measure of Lily's journey is not just that she became a pilot and survived the time slip.
No, it's what she did with that impossible knowledge. We shift now to Lily today, commanding more than jets.
Her current role is the synthesis of her military training, her philosophical understanding of sacrifice, and the emotional truth delivered via the letter.
She commands more than fighter jets. She runs a foundation.
And this is where the physical sacrifice of her parents is translated into institutionalized hope.
The foundation's purpose is highly specific, helping girls from her old neighborhood dream bigger.
This is the ultimate fulfillment of Rajesh's philosophy. It's not just a place of learning. It's a dedicated space where young girls, starting from similar economic hardship, can look up and see the stars, knowing someone who came from their very cracks believes they can reach them.
The foundation, we have to emphasize, is the physical manifestation of the rough hands principle.
It is. Rajesh turned garbage collection into school pages. Lilly, through the foundation, turns her piloting success, the ultimate soft hands achievement, into funded pathways for others.
She is replicating the function of her own window garden and her father's nightly ritual, but on an organizational scale.
So what specifically does the foundation do to embody that idea of growing beauty in the hardest cracks?
The documentation suggests the programs are focused not just on academics, but on mentorship and skill development that often targets vocational training alongside high-level education.
So it's providing both the shield, the soft hands of education, and the dignity of labor.
Exactly. It echoes her father's inherent respect for work. She ensures that the girls have access to resources that eliminate the need for the kind of extreme starvation sacrifice her mother endured.
The foundation is literally paving the cracks so that the next generation's lilies can bloom with more certainty.
And she keeps the memory of her parents integrated into her current professional life through these quiet, constant tributes.
Like the vase of fresh lilies always in her office.
A visual, constant tribute to the love that shaped her, which contrasts so sharply with the single bouquet that was bought with starvation.
That symbolic transition is incredibly powerful. The lily is no longer a symbol of brutal economic hardship. It's a symbol of established prosperity and enduring memory.
It ensures that the memory of the struggle remains fresh, preventing her from becoming disconnected from her roots.
And the sensory memories are just as important. Catching the scent of her mother's cooking or hearing her father's soft voice talking about the stars.
When the light hits just right.
That phrase, when the light hits just right, is key to understanding how she manages her grief. It implies the memory isn't always available on demand.
Right. It requires a specific moment of reflection, a certain angle of light, a quiet space in the chaos of command.
But when those conditions are met, the presence is visceral, atmospheric. It confirms that the reunion wasn't just a one-time event. It fundamentally altered her perception of their presence.
This brings us to the final wisdom, the synthesis of this entire story documented by Swapnil. Lilly's journey is the ultimate example of carrying the love and sacrifices of her parents wherever she goes.
Absolutely. The flight to the stars was the destination, but the carrying of that love is the legacy. She built her success on their foundation and then used that success to reinforce the very community that nourished her.
And the symbolism of the lilies endures. The sources suggest the lilies still bloom twice in Pune, once in nature and once in the hearts of those who remember them.
And that is the definition of immortality achieved through action, not biology. It speaks to the transcendent power of generative love. Her foundation ensures that the memory of Anushri and Rajesh doesn't fade. Their sacrifice continues to bear fruit for others who are also starting in those hardest cracks.
The ultimate insight, which I find so profound, is that while the best pilots are trained to read the skies, to understand weather patterns and radar, Lilly knows something more fundamental.
Sometimes the sky reads us, sending letters wrapped in memories and love, reminding us that those we miss never truly fade.
That statement fundamentally reverses the relationship between humanity and the cosmos.
It suggests that the universe, or destiny, is not a cold mechanism, but an active, responsive entity capable of intervention when compelled by profound love. Lilly wasn't just receiving a message, she was being affirmed by the cosmos that the sacrifice that allowed her to fly was acknowledged and eternally valid.
This has been a deeply affecting and frankly mind-bending deep dive into the sources provided by Swapnil. If we summarize the powerful narrative of Lilly's life, we see a clear, undeniable progression. Profound hardship, paid for by immense sacrifice, laid the foundation for flight, both literally and figuratively. She achieved a destiny guided by impossible, time-defying love.
And the essential takeaway here is that genuine achievement often springs not from raw talent alone, but from the greatest, most costly sacrifices we witness and internalize.
Right.
Lilly didn't simply escape her circumstances. She harnessed her success to build a sturdy, permanent bridge back to those circumstances through her foundation. She ensured that the roots that fed her dream, those rough hands and raw hands, could nourish countless others in her community.
And so we leave you with this final provocative thought. This deep dive shows us that true victory isn't just about reaching the destination commanding the jet, but about what you intentionally carry with you. The scent of lilies, the memory of rough hands, and the certainty of love's transcendent strength.
So we ask you this.
If the sky could orchestrate an event to send you a message wrapped in a memory, What truth would it contain? And what legacy would that profound insight compel you to build in the here and now?
Thank you for joining us for this profound exploration of love, sacrifice, and destiny, as chronicled in the moving story of Lilly.
Until the next deep dive, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep the scent of your own lilies fresh in your heart.